So you, sir,
yes,
have been outspoken about any of a number of things over the years.
Well, it's funny. I have.
Yeah.
And I'm prepared to talk about any or all of them. But what springs to mind now, because I've had lots and lots of conversations and talked to lots of interesting people and listened as well, not just talked at them, but listened to what people have to say and so on and so forth. And my platform has narrowed down to this tiny little thing that's called, well, it's just several words, but the most important ones are Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Paris 1948. Does anybody remember it? There are 32 articles. If you haven't read them, go and read them. When you've read them, decide whether or not you subscribe to the ideas that are embodied in them, which is that it's what's in your constitution, I believe.
That's right.
But
I have a copy of this, by the way.
Yeah,
the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I have a copy of it. I have it in my living room. I encourage people to read it. In fact, I have more than one copy, and I give it out to people.
I'm very glad to hear that. But this is my point. Because this cuts lots of conversations very, very short. And they won't just be conversations which I have with people about Israel and Palestine, because clearly, if you believe in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, then how can it possibly be subscribed to, or can it be enforced? Well, then you have a conversation about international law, and you get onto the International Courts of Justice, the ICJ, and then you get onto the ICC, the International Criminal Court, and then you get onto the fact that the United States of America is not a signatory to any of the agreements that pertain to the idea that there might even be such a thing as international law, not a signatory to the Treaty of Rome, doesn't believe in. In fact, the ICC is roundly attacked by the current administration. Sometimes previous administrations have been more circumspect in their attacks upon the idea of international law, but nevertheless have flouted it shockingly. So I'm talking about the United States of America here now. So when you speak to most Americans and you say, "What do you think your country stands for?" They will they won't say, "Well, obviously, attachment to the bottom line, which is the basis of corporate law." What do you mean? Well, the only responsibility that a corporation has is to maximize the profit for its shareholders. Well, you mean corporations have no social responsibility? None. Well, does the government? Not really. The government's job is to support the corporations. You can see that. You only have to look at the policies and see what they actually do. They support the corporations. They support the very wealthy. Okay. Well, what do you think it might be about? Well, it's about liberty and freedom and democracy, and that's why we are the shining city on the hill. We're this wonderful example and you kind of either you leave the room because there's no point in listening to this garbage, or you speak to people and you say, but that's not true. The United States of America has no interest in human rights. None. And who knows whether it ever did, but it's very unlikely if you read the history that you could believe such a thing. And people look at you flabbergasted with their jaws hanging open as if you're insane. Yeah, but we do. We go all around the world trying to help democracy. No, you don't. You go all around the world supporting right-wing fascist dictatorships against the wills of the people who live in the countries. And I could rattle off the names of half a dozen countries where that is happening today, mainly in South America. But also there's huge support now for Hungary, for Orban. Israel is a perfect example. Fascist, right-wing, apartheid state, no interest in human rights, supported to the tune of $3 billion a year or whatever it is by the United States of America. Well, you can't have it both ways. Either you believe in human rights or you don't. And you can't say, well, we believe in human rights for us. We believe in human rights for Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, but we don't believe in human rights for the bus drivers or for all the people who don't have any health care. Of course, the pandemic was going to be awful in America. There's no health system. You don't have one. Yes, we do. We have the best health service in the world. We have the best doctors and the best research and the best. Yeah, but it's only for the very rich, dopey. You don't actually have a health service. You don't have a nationalized service that looks after the people, the citizens. You do not look after well, you don't, and everybody knows it. If you look at lists of healthcare in the developed world or whatever, I can't remember where the United States is, but it's like 37th or something.
I think it's just below Cuba,
between Zaire and Uzbekistan. Yes. Actually, Uzbekistan probably has a much better health service,
right?
But you don't care about people at all, not at all. You care about Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. So if that's how you want to live, all right, live like that. But of course, the reason that the many people who don't want to live like that, or if they do, what a streak of masochism must run through this society that people will accept such a thing. If they do, then you go, all right, well, that would explain why that's how you live. But if you don't, you are many. There's 300 million of you. For goodness sake, get together and go, no, this is not the life we really want. We want a life that is more equitable. I don't want to see ex-servicemen. Every time you pass a homeless person on the street, the odds are about 5 to 1 on that it's a veteran who's completely screwed up with PTSD because he was sent abroad to kill brown people in an immoral, wildly costly, insane war crime like the invasion of Iraq. You mentioned George W. and Tony Blair. Why aren't they in prison?
Mm-hmm.
They're criminals. They should not be walking around in public. They should be locked up. They killed millions of people.
Right.
They just did. And so, do we? So this is the elephant in the room is the inability of people to actually consider who they really are, what their country really is, what it really does, and whether that is what they want or not. So that's why my tiny platform is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I'll shut up now.